are coming in. I'm gonna start us on time because I need to end this a few minutes early. I don't think we actually will need the whole hour, but if you're okay with that, you can let
Yeah,
people
that's
in.
fine.
Okay, thanks. So really quickly before we dive into the contract changes, I added a link to this website here on our hub so that you guys, if you wonder about, is my home in a groundwater district? Do I need to add that disclosure? There is this website here where you put in the address. Let me show you. You're going to put in the property address down here on the right, and then it's going to tell you. So that is something we just do. I do 305 Railroad Street because old habits die hard. It's going to show you this lovely purple. I don't even know what that means. Let's see here. Um, oh my gosh. There we go. Click on it. Edwards Aquifer Conservation District. The district website is there. I should have tried, or I had you all, oh, I lost Tracy. Okay. Uh, um, this is so helpful. I should have actually tried this and figured this all out before I showed it to you. I will come back with more information on this. I'm not gonna waste everybody's time. Oh my gosh. Hold on, let me see if I can zoom out. I think the lines mean we don't have to do it, but no, there's a train. So I will confirm. I'm not sure which ones. I don't think we do, but ground, because it's not a groundwater district, it's just the conservation district. So it's the GCDs that we have to do it. But I will confirm and let you guys know. Okay. But the link for that is there on Hub. And then I also added to Hub the forms list that's changed. And we're going to go into that next. Let me close that. Okay. So that's what this is. And I have agents trying to get on. Let me make sure they know. Okay, we're good. List of changes are on here. I feel like everything changed. Not major changes on the forms we normally use, but we'll go through the basics in a minute. Then the new disclosure, that's what I just showed you guys, is for the groundwater district. But if you have any questions and want to know what's changed on what, this list will give it to you. It's 8 pages long, so we're not going to go through it all right now. This is highlighting the 1 to 4 changes. We're going to jump into that here in a second. They define legal holidays, they changed some wording, and then they added a couple of paragraphs. So let's jump into that. We'll go through all those, but I added these 8 pages on Hub as well. So those are right there if you guys want to know. What I recommend you do is make sure if you're using SkySlope, if you're not using SkySlope, then make sure you are updating your forms. But for me, I have templates in SkySlope. Oh, hey, hold on. Let me get my chat open. HazeCAD will list if the property address is, well, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah, your appraisal district will list it as well. Um, so on SkySlope, if you are using a template you already have, you're going to select a form and then hit fill and send. Let's see if it does it. I may have already updated this. Right there. It says you are viewing an outdated version of this form. Click update now, and it's going to go ahead and update it. So you want to make sure you're doing that if you're using a template. I would recommend you go into your template and just update the forms. That way they're done. You don't have to do it every time. But for now, just make sure no matter what, we start using the updated forms. It's really important. Let me update the contract. It's really important going forward that you're using, see the May 4th, 2006. That's how you'll know you're using the updated version. You want to use the correct amendment version to match the contract version. So for the next month or so, amendments got updated to match the paragraphs, especially paragraph 12. The biggest changes on 12. And so if you try to use the old amendment with the new contract, that wording's not going to match, and vice versa. If you try to use a new amendment in the old contract, the wording doesn't match. Now you can always use other modifications and spell out the change there. But I just want to make sure you guys are aware of that and pay attention to that. And we'll look at the amendment in a minute. But let's go through the 1 to 4 and make sure we understand what we're doing now. So pretty much everything on page 1 has stayed the same. Page 2, so this here has gone into the whole Saturday, Sunday delivery of earnest and option when it's a weekend or a legal holiday. It says the time it has been extended if it's falling on one of those to the next day. So that is good. We've always known that, but they're just spelling it out a little clearer for us, which is nice. Then we're going to come down, and the next big change is the water district stuff that we've talked about. Under disclosure, or yeah, seller's disclosure. So we do have a seller's disclosure. We accept it as is, all that normal stuff. And then we go into, oh my gosh, no, I'm losing my mind. Okay, there we go. I knew it's under seller's disclosure. Under the seller's disclosure paragraph, here's where we get into the groundwater and surface water rights. So if we have a groundwater district, then we're doing this. If we have, or you're doing, we'll get it to you in so many days. The problem is, if I'm the listing agent, you're giving the buyer an out until you deliver that notice. So that's really important to keep in mind. Or you're marking 3 that 1 and 2 do not apply. So you have to do this notice if there's a well, a pond, a lake, a tank, a groundwater district, or any other special kind of districts. So 1 or 2, or it is not required. I literally just got an offer this morning and they didn't mark any of these, and that is incorrect. It has to be either 1, 2, or 3. So we just need to start being vigilant, and then when you're making offers, make sure you're checking the appropriate box. Let's see what other changes on here. The big ones, we've added wording. 12 is the biggest change. So we just had a year to learn the old 12, and now we've changed it to the new 12. It's so frustrating, but that's okay. We're back to 12A1B for closing costs for the buyer is what we did. So it became C for a hot minute, and now we're back to B. So all the closing costs for the buyer are going to be in this blank here. Then commission is gone down to its own new paragraph. So we had 12A, 1B, and now we are 12B for compensation. And you're going to mark seller's going to pay or the buyer's going to pay. And it's pretty clear. Sometimes you may have the seller's paying you 2% and then the buyer's paying the other percent because the seller's not offering enough. Maybe, it depends on the situation. But it's really important. There's no more listing agreement compensation. There's no more broker to broker compensation. All of that is completely gone. This is what we're doing from now on going forward. So, in my opinion, if you're writing an offer, you're going to more than likely check 1 and then check this and put 3% and just negotiate it that way. But sometimes it may be a combo. But if you don't put anything here, you're not getting paid. And that's really, really important for everybody to understand because there's no more listing agreement compensation. Are there any questions on that? I don't want to move past that. If you guys can unmute and ask if you have any questions. All right. I know it sounds easy, but go ahead.
Does that mean that the listing will change also?
Yeah, the listing agreement paragraph has gone away.
Okay.
Yep. There's no more option to add buyer agent compensation in a listing agreement. There are a few other changes on this. Notices they've broken it out in more depth. I don't know why, but they have. So buyer, like they're clarifying address, phone number, email, and then the agent's address, phone number, and email, which is kind of frustrating, but whatever. Paragraph 22, this looks totally different and it's a little frustrating, honestly. I don't love this, how they did this, but they've got like the financial stuff up top. And then down here, you're gonna have to scroll down and get your HOA and your non-realty. At least non-realty finally got added on here. I will say that is nice. And then there's always the other. So they just broke up all the addendums into these categories. And I think once we do it enough times, we'll get used to it, but it's driving me crazy right now. I'm getting offers and I'm like, they mark third party and nothing else. And I'm going, oh yeah, it's down here. So just make sure you're marking everything that's applicable. If we miss a box here, even though the form's signed, it's not attached to the contract and doesn't count legally. So it's really important we're getting that correct. The other big change on the layout of things is our agent page, which is another thing that's kind of frustrating. And just ignore the old address. This is pulling from a really old file. So representing seller as seller's agent, you're going to put all the information here. Buyer as buyer's agent, information's all going to go here, or it's going to be intermediary with both. So that is much clearer, cleaner. The spaces make more sense. So I do like this. It just looks weird. It looks like a lot of information, but we've got to fill it out. So any questions on contract before we jump into a couple others? Okay. Guys are so quiet. Let's go back. Hello? Thank you. All right. So let's look at the groundwater disclosure really quickly. So address obviously on there, then it sets definitions of what we're talking about so that everybody's on the same page with the basic knowledge. And then you're going to fill out accordingly, and by you, not you, the seller. This is seller information. Just like we don't want the seller, or we don't want to fill out a seller's disclosure on behalf of the seller, we do not want to fill this out on behalf of the seller. We need to make the seller fill it out. Ideally, we're getting this, if you're the listing agent and any of these apply, you're putting this form completed on, just like you do for a septic, right? The ground on-site sewage facility notice. You're putting it in MLS as an attachment so that all offers can come with those documents included. I would put instructions in the private agent remarks and say, please look at the attachments and include this. And have the seller fill it all out. I can't stress how important that piece is to this puzzle. Any questions on this form? Okay. Then let's go look at the listing agreement. This is what Tracy was asking about a minute ago. The big change is that on the compensation, there is only a and there's no other agent. Seller will pay broker. It's just us, nothing else. So that's good. We don't have to worry about other compensation to the other agent. It's not allowed on here. All done. Moving forward. Finally. Amendment. So this is the new amendment, maybe. Yeah. Okay, good. So, no, this is the old amendment. Okay, let me go get the new amendment. I didn't want it. It should have updated. Oh, it may not be updated in here yet. Shoot. Shooty. No, this is right. I'm lying. This is updated. 12A1B, this is your closing costs, and then 12B is the separate paragraph with the compensation. So this is correct. So the old amendment, obviously, these numbers won't match on your contract. So that's why you've got to make sure they're correct. So that is done on there and in Sky Slope. What else? Seller's disclosure. So we all need to use the new seller's disclosure. If you have a listing that is not under contract, as of July 1st, you need to make your sellers update the disclosure. We have new rules. We've got concrete cancer added on here. We've got water supply specifically. We've got 78, I think was before, was in there. What else is added? Oh my gosh, I can't talk. Weather Springs, landfill, there's just a lot more. Well, Texas Realtors went all out and added a lot more stuff, storage tanks, all kinds of stuff got added onto this. However, Texas Realtor or Trex disclosure got the required minimums added on too. So it doesn't matter which one of these you use, ABORs will be updated as well. We need to make sure we're using the newest seller's disclosure. So that's really important. I have one I'm trying to get under contract a listing today, and I'm hoping we do, so I don't have to get it updated, but if we don't, we got to get it updated. Okay, those are the biggies. Let me jump back over here, make sure there's nothing else we wanted to make sure. Like I said, almost all the forms have changed with updates, but they're all pretty basic. Like what I just showed you were the main changes, like seller disclosure. So we added the concrete cancer piece, um, move things around and then added all these additional disclosure items. Buyer tenant rep, long form and short form, emphasizing, so there's a statement defining market area, clarifying language. Paragraph 7C, we should go look at that. Let's go do that. I forgot about that one. Do I have a buyer rep on this? I do not. Oh my gosh. I am blinking out. Residence buyer tenant. Short. Nope, we want long. The short form, if you were in my Q&A the other day, I was talking about that form. If you do an open house for another brokerage, have those with you. But the long form is usually what you're going to want to use. So I love that they did this. The section should not be left blank. So market area, you guys need to get specific. We just had an agent and we tried to fight it, but our buyer's agent did Hayes in Travis County. The buyer ended up buying in Bastrop, even though our buyer rep was still in place. But because they bought in Bastrop County, they ended up using another agent. I mean, they used another agent for totally different reasons, but because she didn't have Bastrop County on there and they bought in Bastrop County, we were dead in water as far as fighting to get that compensation. So it's really important you guys are covering yourselves. Now, you cannot be generic on this. You have to be specific. So you can't say Central Texas. Well, what defines Central Texas? I keep looking to my right because you guys are over there. What defines Central Texas? You can't do that. You need to do zip codes, counties. I think counties are the easiest personally. Maybe cities if you know they're going to be very specific, but it's really important to do that. Okay, so compensation and how sources of compensation. So I personally have always said the broker is going to, um, or oh my gosh, you're signing this to allow me to negotiate and get the seller to pay it on your behalf. So I always explain it that way, and I show right here, a client may seek to obtain payment from paragraph 7 of the from the seller. So I always explain that that's my goal. Now, it does say that broker will assist client negotiating from the seller. However, if client still has outstanding fees, then we got to renegotiate this, right? It's really important that you explain this, but I always say and have forever, the seller's going to pay it on your behalf. And this is giving me permission to negotiate and do that. And then if I've only had, I think in the last year, 2 multiple offer situations where I reduced my compensation because it was multiple offers, but I chose to do it because I wanted them to get it. And I didn't go back and charge them more money. We have an agent right now who's paying a 1% referral fee. So she's only making 2, but then the buyer picked a KB home that's only paying 2. So now she's only making 1. So she did have the tough conversation with that buyer and said, hey, this was the plan. It hasn't worked out. I want you to have this home, of course. Would you consider paying me anything out of pocket? And he's offering up a 0.5% to help her make a little bit more money on the deal. So that's kind of the situation we're in, unfortunately. And with some situations, whether it's multiple offers or some of the builders. That's the first builder I've heard that's cutting commissions at this point, but let's see. What else do I want to make sure we go over? There's been more clarification on the general notice. We've changed that form like 5 times in the last 2 years. So just make sure, again, we're updating. So the condo contract, farm and ranch, unimproved, all of those changed to add all the verbiage for the legal holiday and the disclosures. So make sure all that, all of those forms are all updated. Um, Critical date list. I don't know that I've ever shown you guys that form. That's a cool form to use. I just do it in an email to my clients. The wire fraud got an update as well. I think that's about it. Okay, where will there be red line samples? So Colleen, in the last company meeting, I shared the red line samples with you. Um, like, so the red lines come out about 2 months. Well, they came out in May, and then the change goes into effect July 1st. So we're kind of past red lines, but I think we may have the red lines on here from the company meeting. I may be making that up. Let me look real quick. Let me look at file. Here's the main meeting. Yeah. Oh, this is just the 1 to 4 with red lines. And quite frankly, it's very confusing. I think the red line changes are really, really confusing. Like, look at 12 here. We'll just see, look at 12. Like, well, not. Well, it's not as bad. This one's really bad. The groundwater adding in all that wording. But I mean, so the 1 to 4 red lines are here. I'm sure you can Google and find the other red lines. Um, let's see. Filter contract changes for 2026 red line version. So May is when it happened. So just make sure you're looking at the right dates because there was like, oh, this is the same form we already have. Which are all back in January. I know we've gotten it emailed to us from all the different entities. If you need red lines other than the 1 to 4, let me know. I can probably track it down. The problem is they try to, once the new changes are all done and on the new form, then they put them out and get rid of the red lines so that no one is, thinking it's still in process. But if you need them, let me know. Compensation. Okay, so this is being retired. That's the best part of this whole thing. Hooray, hooray. We shouldn't need it other than on leases, some agents require it instead of like a lease invoice, but I think because the form's going away, they should just be going back to lease invoices. All right, that's it. I knew it was gonna be pretty fast. Any questions on any of that or just any contract questions in general? Making sure you guys aren't typing in. You feel free to unmute and ask questions. No? You guys are so quiet. I mean, these aren't hard. It's just we just got to get used to them. But I appreciate you being on here. This is recorded, and so Tracy will get it updated and added on so that if you guys need to come back to it, you can. And then again, I've linked this form on Hub so you can go look at it. But the most important piece is just before you start any contract amendment or anything, update them in SkySlope or whatever transaction program you're using. All right, you guys have a good weekend. Yay, it's Friday. I'm gonna stop sharing. We'll see you guys later.